Addiction is any behavior you continue despite it bringing a negative consequence into your life. Any behavior that you continue to do despite it bringing a negative consequence into your life. So it's very easy to look at our situation in the world through the lens of addiction. And this is not a new conversation. We've been at this conversation for a long, long time. It reminds me of speaking with people in active addiction, in the state of denial, before they've woken up, before they've reached a bottom. And the conversation always goes something like this. You know, you could stop this behavior, which I'm noticing is hurting you. You could stop this behavior. And the person who's stuck in that place of addiction says, what behavior? I don't see it the way you see it. I can't even see what you're trying to point at. Later on, a later stage, closer to the bottom that we're talking about right now, the person says, okay. I see the behavior. But I'm wondering if a minor adjustment to the behavior could do it. You know, in concrete terms, well, I've been drinking every day of the week. Maybe now I'll try to just drink on weekends. That adjustment, maybe that could bring about the effect I'm trying to create. And that conversation goes on and on and on and on as the mind finds infinite ways to avoid the very thing that is necessary. We're talking about a bottom. The breakdown is reaching a bottom. And the bottom is an incredibly sacred place. If you've been there, raise your hand. The bottom could be defined as a moment where you're finally ready to tell the truth. Very simple. I have lived a certain kind of way. I recognize the pain, the self-harm of it, the harm to others. I recognize that I have hopes and dreams and desires, and I don't seem to be able to recognize or to realize any of it. And you reach that bottom and you tell the truth. In point of fact, I actually don't know what to do. I don't know how to change. I don't know how we'll get there. I only know the way that I've been living to this point. And I haven't yet learned the way that I will need to live to move to this next place. What do I do? And so that's a sacred space. We're talking about that bottom, and that's a beautiful place to get to. As Bruce was saying, as Reverend Michael was saying, as Sadhvi was saying, it can't happen quick enough for me. It cannot happen quick enough. We thought maybe it happened in 2008 with the banking crisis. We thought maybe that would do it. But this looks close. This feels close. And I won't point any fingers to any individuals. Let's just say collectively as a society, we hadn't yet reached bottom. We weren't yet ready to tell the truth. There's a big difference once you reach that bottom and you're finally ready to tell the truth. Something magical happens. That's grace. There's a little door that opens and grace can come through. You could say the grace of God, or the ability to discern true from false, or you could say I've touched upon, I've reached the quantum field, the unified field. I'm able to access information that hasn't been available to me before. We talk about that, accessing greater power. We talk about the feeling of being powerless in addiction. And so that our problem is lack of power. We're trying to access more power. And in the bottom, all of a sudden, for a moment, we can access more power. It comes from desperation. We talk about, often in recovery, we talk about the gift of desperation, G-O-D, the gift of desperation. And it's interesting that the gift of desperation is a wonderful way to change your path. It is a wonderful way to begin to recover. It is a springboard toward that new way of living that we haven't yet figured out exactly how to do. And interestingly, the gift of desperation is not a good mechanism whereby we can maintain this newfound information, this newfound way of living, because as soon as we change, that desperation for a little while goes away. And the thing that brought us to our knees and the thing that created the change in the first place is now gone. In concrete terms, for example, if you've been drinking alcoholically and you feel very sick in your body, and then you simply remove alcohol from your life and you start to sleep 8 hours a day, you start to eat 3 meals a day, your mind and your body start to heal a little bit. You start to come back online. And unfortunately, something else comes back online also, and that's the ego. The ego, which was so beaten down and so ready to see, wow, I'm ready for something new. I can see that I've really had a real and true whooping, and I'm ready for something new. All of a sudden, a couple weeks later, the mind starts to present some new ideas. Maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe, all right, I said a few things. I had a rough couple of days, maybe we take it back. Maybe I overreacted at that sacred moment when I reached that bottom. You remember when I said, God, I'll do anything to move forward from this state of mind? I was under duress at that moment, and maybe I could take that back and we could rearrange a few things in my life. And of course, this is what we see every day. We see it in ourselves. We see it in each other. We certainly see it reflected out in the world. So there's a big difference between breakdown and breakthrough. And I'll just conclude this answer with this. For a person who's reaching recovery, an individual, they have that breakdown, and usually, there are exceptions, but usually a breakthrough comes after a continuing effort to cultivate greater awareness and consciousness, to change one's routine and one's behavior, to change one's environment and one's community, and that this effort, this work over a continued amount of time is what actually brings us to breakthrough. So, really important to understand breakdown, very important. Great first step, and that's not breakthrough. We're going to have to work. We're going to have to do a lot to get there.